Greetings from the Oklawaha River here in Ocala National Forest. Let me first apologize for the lack of light. You're probably seeing absolutely nothing, but that's because it's 5:50 in the morning. Anyway, I got on the water here exceptionally early this morning. The reason for my early start is I hope to paddle a loop that I've been wanting to paddle for a number of years, and the conditions just happened to all come together today. At least I hope they came together. We'll see as the day progresses, but I'm beginning my paddle here at the Rodman Reservoir here at the Rodman Dam. My plan is to take the Oklawaha down to the St. Johns River at its terminus, which is about, I don't know, 12 to 14 miles from here. Maybe a little less than that, but I think that's my best guess. And then I'm going to head north on the St. Johns River about another 8 miles until I reach the Cross Florida Barge Canal. I'm going to go up the canal a mile to where the lock is, and with any luck I'll be able to enter the lock and continue my journey down the barge canal, eventually ending up where I started here at the Rodman Dam and Reservoir. Anyway, the trip looks like it's about, from what I can best guess and estimate, between 26 and 30 miles. I'll know those exact numbers when and if I finish. I've got my Garmin rolling here, so should have a pretty good estimate. Anyway, yeah, in order to make the lock, they only cycle that lock a few times during the day, and the last time today is at 1 or 1:30. I think it's at 1. Anyway, so I have to get there before 1. If I don't, then I've got to figure out some way to portage around the lock, which, from what I could see, was not going to be an easy task. So my preference would be to get to the lock before 1 o'clock, which is the reason for my early start. Anyway, I'm gonna turn you off here. I can't see hardly a thing out here, and when I turn my light on, it just becomes worse. The reflection over the water, there's an inversion here. The air temperature's, I don't know, 38, water temperature's probably 58, so we've got a thin layer of fog forming over the water here. So turning the headlight on doesn't seem to do much other than reflect the light back in my face. But I'm going to turn you off here. I'll get a few miles under my belt. When the sun starts to come up, I'll check back in. Back in with you here. I am still at it, slow and steady. I'll tell you what, this is more sketchy than I thought it would be, and certainly more challenging. I guess I should have counted on this inversion considering the temperature this morning, but honestly just didn't factor it into the whole adventure here. But anyway, we're making the best of it we can. I've hit a couple of objects on the side or buoys in the middle that have startled me pretty good, but for the most part I've been able to keep it in the middle of the river. Anyway, I am grateful that it is the dead of winter, because I couldn't fathom doing this in the dead of summer when this place is literally crawling with alligators. I'm grateful that the temperatures are as cool as they are, because the alligators tend to be a lot less active when it's this cold outside. Anyway, no sign of light yet. Maybe a hair lighter than it was when I started. Yeah, I guess it is a little bit, but anyway, it's far from daylight. It's far from great visibility out here. Anyway, it's a shame I'm missing all this beautiful scenery, but this was kind of a necessary evil to get to the lock in time. I had to get on the water at least an hour before sunset. And I've paddled this river a few times already this year, so I have seen this landscape before, and it is pretty spectacular. Anyway, we had a lot of rain 2 days ago, and I can definitely feel it with the current. I definitely have a huge advantage here. I'm not sure what's going to happen when I reach the St. Johns River. The tide isn't lined up for me very well, in that when I get to the river, the tide's going to be coming in, so I'm going to be going against the tide. But I'm not sure how all this rain factors into that, if all these flooding rivers are going to counteract the tide a little bit, or give me a little extra help. I don't know. We'll see when we get out there. But anyway, it doesn't get much quieter than this. Stars are pretty nice, and I'm really looking forward to getting a little bit more daylight out. Be able to pick up the pace here just a little bit and be able to enjoy this scenery. So as you can see, finally getting some light here, making my job a lot easier and a lot less stressful, I can tell you that. We've managed to, got about 3.6 miles in, and we're right at 1 hour paddling, which is a little bit slower than I had hoped. My goal was closer to 4 miles an hour, but considering the limited visibility, I had to dial it back a little bit, so I expect we'll get closer to that 4 mile an hour for the next few miles. Anyway, absolutely glorious morning. I love watching the day come to life. Looks like we've got some clouds, but there is no rain forecasted, so I wouldn't mind some clouds today. This river is completely surrounded by very dense, thick swamp. Pretty much the entire route, certainly the entire route that I'm going to be on today. If you look at the river on an aerial map, you'll see there's just a myriad of little fingers that run parallel to this river, and it's not too difficult to get off on one of those fingers if you don't pay attention. In fact, I've done it before, and I didn't realize it till I was probably a solid mile down it, and it kind of started fizzling out. But anyway, there's actually a couple of different routes you can take as you get towards the end of the river, past Highway 19. Some of those fingers do take you all the way out to, or right to the St. Johns River. So I've actually done like a little loop before gone out to the river and then come back on one of those fingers about halfway. Anyway, one of the challenges in doing this paddle is that there's just really not a lot of opportunities to get out of the boat at all. There's a landing that we've already passed that's just a small, just a raised up area along the side of the river, and then there's Highway 19 where there's a boat ramp, and then that's kind of it. The 8 miles up the river, there's really no place to get out. The barge canal, there's really no place to get out. So as the day progresses, it's going to be rough not being able to get out and stretch my legs. Anyway, what inspired me to do this paddle or route was I was looking for a paddle that I could do that wasn't an out and back. 90% of the paddling I do involves, you know, an out and back, because that's the way rivers run. So I was looking for some sort of loop that I could do and really cover some big miles. And after looking at the map, this was really the only game in town. And it's a little bit bigger than I had hoped, but it just adds to the challenge. So I'm not going to say nobody's ever done this. I'm sure somebody has, but I don't think it's a commonly paddled route, being that it's such a long distance, and it does involve paddling in the St. Johns River, which can get chopped up pretty quick and easy. And then, of course, the barge canal with the lock right in the middle could certainly deter folks. That's probably going to be the toughest part of this paddle, is in the barge canal, not because it's going to be choppy or anything, but just because it's just this never-ending straight long line, and the scenery's kind of the same all the way down the canal, so it could get a little bit boring. But anyway, I'm excited to do this. I've been wanting to do it for a couple of years, and I just couldn't seem to get either good weather or winds that were light enough, or, you know, life just didn't align with doing this. But anyway, I'm hoping that this pans out and I can pull it off, because there really is, as I mentioned earlier, there is no bail out here. Once you start, you're kind of committed. I mean, you could certainly turn around, but there's going to be a point of no return where it would be easier just to continue on. So anyway, I'll check back in later. Shaping up to be a mighty fine day. All right, we are about to cross beneath Highway 19, which is the main corridor here in the Oklawaha National Forest. We're at, my Garmin's showing me just over 6 miles, and we're sitting at about an hour and a half, which is actually a really good time. Better than I had hoped. We've been able to pick up the pace significantly now that we can see where we're going. Anyway, this is kind of like, or should be, the last sign of civilization until we get to the lock, and that won't be till well after lunch. So the rest of the trip will be a few more miles, well, more than a few, yeah, maybe maybe 4 or 5 on the here on the Oklawaha, and then another 8-ish up to the Barge Canal, and then I think it's another maybe 8 to the finish from there. These are all rough estimates, but anyway, you can hear by the noise of the ruckus up there, it's a pretty busy highway. Everybody's coming or going to work, or it is in the middle of hunting season, so there's probably some folks out here in the forest doing some of that too. Anyway, I'll be anxious to get away from the highway noise and get back into the wilderness. I've yet to see anybody out this morning, which really should come as no surprise. But I suspect as the day draws on, we'll start seeing some fishermen or duck hunters or just people out enjoying the day. Anyway, right back up there is a small canal that will take you to a boat ramp, which is accessed off of 19. When I paddle this river, that's typically where I put in, and I typically paddle up to the dam and then just come back. I have paddled from here out to the river and across the river before, as I mentioned earlier, but anyway, that's the normal put in for me. I thought about putting in there for this trip. The problem was, based upon the wacky schedule of when they open and close those locks, it's only like 3 times during the day, and they're like 2 hours apart, and it takes 30 minutes to just get through it once they open it. Anyway, based upon the times and that schedule, starting here was gonna be problematic in that, based upon the time I was gonna clear that, I still had, I don't know, like 12 or 13 miles ahead of me with one pretty substantial portage there back at the dam. And anyway, best I was figuring it was that I wouldn't get back here to the 19 boat ramp until around 6, maybe a little after 6. So I don't know, I guess I just preferred to do the morning paddle in the dark versus do it at night. Anyway, it's definitely a pretty day to be out for sure. It's still pretty chilly. I bet it's, I don't know, 38 or 39 degrees. I'm pretty warm, but admittedly my toes and my fingers are still pretty chilled. Well, I am coming up on about 10.5 miles. I'm 2 hours and 50 minutes into this paddle, and I am just about to come out into the St. Johns River. So I'll be saying farewell to the Oklawaha, and I will be enjoying the St. Johns River for the next 3 hours maybe. Anyway, the Oklawaha treated me well. The current did taper quite a bit as I got closer and closer to the river. As the Oklawaha widened, it became a lot slower paddle, but it's to be expected. Anyway, I'm banking on no wind or very light winds out of the west, which should be a non-issue for me today, and a pretty rare occurrence for this river this time of year. Usually this time of year we've got a pretty robust wind out of the northeast rather, or east. So to get a wind out of the west and it be as light as it is today, which I think they forecast 3 to 5, should be a non-issue, because we're going to be hugging the western shore line all the way up to the Cross Florida Barge Canal. Haven't seen anybody except one crabber. I did see a crabber on the Oklawaha. He was pulling up one of his pots when I paddled by. But other than that, it's been very, very quiet. Although I suspect now that we're in the river and it's a much busier waterway, and we've got homes all along the eastern shore, at least for some of this route we're going to have homes on that side. I expect it to be not quite as quiet, but it's amazing how far out these lily pads come from the shore. I mean, we're what, 300 yards from the bank, and these lily pads are growing all the way out here. Anyway, that's all I got. I will check back in when we get up to the barge canal, or if we should come across anything interesting. I am kind of interested to see. So the tide should be coming in rather. But we've had a lot of rain, so I don't know. It looks to me like the current no, it's really hard to say actually. It's not really showing itself on the surface of the water. Technically I should be paddling into a current with the tide coming in, but I don't know how that works with regard to all the rain that we've had. Anyway, right now it's really hard to tell if it's going out or coming in, but regardless, it's not causing me any issues, so hopefully it'll remain that way. Just wanted to check in. I am about 16 and a quarter mile into this trip. I am about 4 hours and a half. So the river's been spectacular today. As you can see, it is just flat as a pancake, which is almost completely unheard of in the dead of winter in Florida. There's usually always wind and waves out here, so boy, I've been blessed today for sure. Anyway, I haven't been out of the boat yet. I am definitely ready to get out after 4.5 hours of sitting in this uncomfortable seat. It is definitely time to stand up and stretch my legs. I don't know if I'm going to have the opportunity to do that, but I'm going to certainly try to find a place to get out here in the next little bit. The only thing along this route there's a bunch of private property on the right side of the river on the east side, but on the west side it's just been all swamp. Except right up here is I don't know if you can see it or not, it's like a pretty substantial landing up here. This is, I think it's pronounced Road Heaver or Rod Heaver Boys Ranch. Anyway, they've got a huge chunk of land back up in here, and it's riverfront property. And there is a boat ramp and looks like a pavilion and some other stuff up here. It is private property, so I'm a little bit skeptical that I'll be able to get out here, but I'm going to see what it has to offer. I may be able to just get out on the boat ramp and just stretch my legs momentarily, if there's no signs prohibiting such things. Anyway, I've been really fortunate. I've had the current at my back this entire paddle. I mean, it's certainly not been a free lunch by any stretch of the imagination, but it sure is nice to have a little bit of a push from behind on a paddle of this length. I know that's going to change once we get into the barge canal. I don't think there's going to be a current in there, but I'm not really sure. I think that lock right in the middle of the canal probably prevents any significant current from forming. So I think I'm just slightly ahead of schedule to make the, I think it's the 1 o'clock lock changeover, if you will. I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work. There's a phone number that you can call to ask them to enter the lock, but I've tried calling that number for weeks and it just goes right to voicemail. So I know in the marine world you would pull up in your boat and hit your horn a couple times, and that's a signal to them that you're there and that you want to make passage. You can also radio them via marine radio channel 13, I think. So I did bring my ham radio, and I do have the frequency for channel 13, so if I can't call or figure it out, I'll see if I can raise somebody on the radio and see if I can come through the lock. I wish I could have got some local intel on how this whole thing's gonna work, because there's no turning around at this point. I mean, like I said, worst case scenarios, I'll have to go back a little bit and then portage my kayak up and over and around. Anyway, we'll see how it works out. I see some people up here. Maybe they'll be kind enough to let me get out and stretch my legs. If not, then I guess we'll just keep pressing forward. There's the current I was speaking of, still kicking pretty good. Anyway, it's 10:30, about 10:45 in the morning. It's warmed up to probably, I don't know, upper 50s, low 60s. Sun's shining behind me, and what a glorious day, man. What a glorious day. And I'll tell you, I've only seen, I don't know, maybe 2 boaters come by, which is crazy considering the size of this river. Anyway, let me shut you off and let me get up here and see what the story is, if I can get out or not. Well, the Boys Ranch didn't pan out as being a good stopover. They were doing a bunch of work there and they didn't seem overly welcoming, so I didn't tempt fate, but that's fine. I'm at 18 miles, 5 hours into this paddle. I'm actually about to turn up the Cross Florida Barge Canal. So another milestone here and another change of direction. I'm kind of anxious to see what this canal has to offer with respect to current or wind, or I don't think there's going to be any wind, but I'm kind of curious to see if there is a current. I am a little bit of a dilemma. I just checked the schedule for the lock, and if you're heading west, which I am, they open this at 8, 11, and then one last time at 1:30. So it's just now a little after 11, so that ship has sailed. So I'm not going to make the 11 o'clock, not even close actually, because I have about another mile to paddle up this before I even reach the lock. So I'm not sure if I call them, if they'll allow me to pass through with not in accordance with the schedule, or if they adhere to that schedule and that's it. So if they do adhere to the schedule and I can't get through earlier than 1:30, I think I'm going to try to portage around. I just can't see myself sitting in my kayak at the base of the lock for 2 hours. I mean, it's one thing to be paddling and sitting for 2 hours, but just to be sitting in this thing for 2 hours would be dreadful. So the only problem that we may run into is getting up and around this giant lock. I mean, this is a pretty substantial piece of infrastructure that extends at least 1/4 of a mile, if I remember right, and the banks on both sides, as you get close to it, become incredibly steep and rocky. So portaging around the lock may not happen either. So anyway, we'll figure it out when we get up here. I mean, the good news is there is supposed to be an opening at 1:30, so worst case scenario, I could just hang out till 1:30. Not my first choice though. Anyway, yeah, I'm not seeing much in the way of current in here, which is not surprising. Tell you what, it's warmed up quite nicely. I bet it's up into the mid 60s by now. Regardless of what I end up doing up here, I'm probably gonna have to lose a couple more layers. Yeah, you probably can't see it on camera, but I can see the lock up there. It's a pretty substantial piece of engineering, and it stands out like a sore thumb out here. Anyway, I'm gonna shut you down and I'll bring you back online here when I get up there and figure this thing out. Oh, I finally managed to find a place to get out. Back behind me a few hundred yards, there was a little landing on the south side of the canal. Correction, on the north side of the canal. I gotta tell you, it felt great to stand up after being in this thing for 5.5 hours. Anyway, I kind of reorganized a little bit, stowed some clothes, took a few layers off, and now I'm back in the canal, working my way towards the lock. Anyway, I've been kind of scoping out the the landscape here, and just as I suspected, doing a portage here is not going to be easy at all. Obviously I'm still too far I wouldn't even attempt it this far because I think we're still a good half-mile away from the lock. But if what I'm seeing here is any indication what it's like up there, which I believe it is, and getting this kayak up and out of this canal over those rocks and up that steep embankment's going to be really, really dreadful. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. If I have to sit here till 1:30, I may just have to sit here till 1:30. But we'll take a closer look when we get up here. But the closer I get to this lock, the steeper these walls just continue to get. I'd love to know how deep this is. I suspect it's probably not nearly as deep as it was originally dredged, but all right, let me turn you off here. I'm gonna get a little closer and then we'll come back. Well, I've made it here. It's just shy of 20 miles, just shy of 6 hours. I'm looking at the lock schedule. It looks like they open the lock at 1:15, closes at 1:30, which would pop me back out the other side around 2. Unfortunately, it's noon, so I have to wait an hour and a half. I'm just not sure I want to wait that long, but I don't know what the option is. So anyway, here I sit. Pretty cool to be here in a kayak, though, I have to tell you. I've come here in a boat once, didn't pass through, just stopped in to check it out, but just kind of neat. Engineering marvel. It's hard to believe that the water on the other side of that lock is, geez, I think it's at least 20 feet higher than, maybe 10 feet, I don't know. Several feet higher than we are here. I'm honestly surprised they continue to maintain this, because this really, I mean, it's a 6 or 7 mile stretch of straight canal that really doesn't, well, it goes to the, I guess it connects the Rodman Dam to the river, but anyway, I guess you don't want you going any closer than this, and I can understand why. So I'll hang back here. I'm gonna go here to this shoreline, see there's a way around, because if I can get around, I'd much rather do that. As cool as it would be to take that ride, I don't know, sitting around here for the next hour and a half just seems dreadful. But yeah, this shoreline over here looks looks like it'd be a real chore to get the boat out and up that steep embankment with those rocks. I'm sure the guy manning this is, I saw that there was cameras everywhere. I'm sure he's watching me like a hawk, trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing. I'm sure I'm probably not the only person that's come up here in a kayak, though, and thought about going around this way instead of waiting for the lock to open. I mean, it's doable. It would just suck. So anyway, I'm going to shut you off and I'll make a decision here what I'm going to do. You haven't figured it out yet. I've decided to not wait and see if I can portage this. Anyway, getting out was not fun. I don't think dragging this kayak for a quarter mile is going to be particularly fun either, but anyway, we'll see how it pans out. I'm going to use this strap here and throw this beast up and over this hill. I'm sure the guy manning that is either laughing or cursing me right now, but that's all right. I wouldn't mind waiting 30 minutes, but I just can't see myself waiting an hour and a half. Anyway, it feels good to get out anyway. Stretch my legs. Watch, they're gonna greet me at the other side and tell me to go back and put my boat back in where I took it out and do it the right way. And I'm violating some sort of federal law by doing this, but this is the reason why I brought this boat and not my Kevlar boat. I have a nice Kevlar touring boat that would have done much better in the water, if at least with respect to speed. But I knew that this was a possibility, and there was no way in hell I was dragging that high-end boat up and over that ridge and then down this, I don't know what you'd call it, a service road maybe. These plastic boats aren't as sleek, maybe not quite as flat, as fast as fiberglass or Kevlar boats, but you can't kill them. And it sure makes it nice when you're doing something like this. You don't have to worry about breaking it or scratching it or whatnot. Anyway, I'm not gonna bore you with this ruck through here. I'll tune you back in when I get to the water on the other side. All right, I'm not gonna lie, that was a real pain in the ass, but it didn't take that long, so I don't think I have any regrets as of yet. Of course, I'm not in the water yet. I'm kind of balanced on these weird logs, so it could get really interesting here. And we are off. I have to tell you, that was a workout. A lot of mud and soft grass. It just did not make for an easy drag. But you know what? We just saved ourselves well over an hour. And I have to tell you, we were talking about the water level. It's well over 20 feet. I couldn't believe it when I got up here and saw it. Anyway, it wasn't too bad. And we are back on the road. We're at 20 3/4 miles. I think we're down to the last 5 or 6, maybe less than that. Anyway, the Garmin's still rolling, so we'll know exactly when we get back what it is, but Yeah, I would have definitely not have done that with my other kayak. I have two, well actually I have three roto molded boats like this that you just can't kill them. And then I have one really nice touring boat that's fiberglass and Kevlar that, yeah, I would have never done that with that boat. I would have just had to wait it out. But anyway, that's one of the reasons why I brought this boat, because I knew that there was a likelihood of me having to portage across rocks and whatnot. So anyway, maybe next time I'll ride it up. It looks like there's a better launching spot right over there where that guy is.
Whoa.
Hey, how we doing?
Did you go through the lock, or did you portage around?
I portaged around. I didn't. It didn't. They're not supposed to open it up for till 1:30. So.
Right. I saw you when we were driving in, and I was just really curious. So you powered up from the St. John's?
Yeah, I actually started at Rodman at 5:30 this morning and took the Oklawaha to the St. John's and then up the St. John's, and now I'm...
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, you did a loop from downstream at the dam, and now you're coming back.
That's exactly right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's something I've wanted to do for a while, but you know, you got to catch the weather just right, because the St. John's obviously can chop up really easy, but But yeah, when I got to the other side, I'm like, well, I can wait for an hour and a half, or I can just...
I mean, that's a pretty tough portage, you know. I haven't done it, but I've looked at it.
Yeah, it's I scoped it out last month, and you hit the nail on the head. It's tough, but it was doable.
Did you just come up all those rocks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the reason why I brought this boat. I have a nicer fiberglass Kevlar boat,
right, yeah.
And I said, well, if I'm gonna have to do a portage, I want to use this cheaper roto molded boat.
I understand completely. Yeah.
So this would have actually been a much better place.
Yeah. We thought when we were pulling in, I saw you, and then you disappeared, and I figured you must have gone over the edge of that wall just right there.
Yeah, I just
wanted to point out to you, it's like, hey, there's kind of a sweet spot right down
I was so tired of dragging this thing, I said, you know what, I'll suck it up on the rocks. So
yeah, get in the water as fast as possible.
So
well, that's, how many miles is that?
Well, I'm at 20.3, and I'm guessing it's maybe another 5 or 6 back. Do you?
That's probably about right. Did you start at the campground boat launch?
No, I started at where the boat ramp is on the other side of the dam.
Yeah. On the. So yeah, you're going to go to the dam and portage over the rocks again.
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do is, yes and no. I'm gonna, when I get to the dam, I'll haul my boat up to the edge, and then I'll go get my truck, and
right.
so I don't minimal dragging.
You're downhill there.
Yeah. But I figured if I can pull this off, that's a piece of cake.
Yeah. You're not going to turn back at that point.
That's right. Yeah, I'm too close to the finish lines.
Yeah, that's cool. That's an ambitious trip, and I've done lots and lots of paddling, but I haven't done that, you know. Yeah,
it's something that I've always wanted to do. I see it on the map all the time, and I paddle the Oklawaha.
Yeah, I live pretty much on the Oklawaha.
Okay. Yeah, I looked at the weather last night, and I said, 3-mile-an-hour winds? Are you kidding me? I'm doing it today, because the St. John's was, well, as glassy as this was.
How many miles from the? I can look at that. You know.
Well, from where to where?
Well, from where the original Oklawaha flows out into the St. John's, and then to this point on the St. John's. You know?
So it was, if memory serves me, from where I started to where I hit the river, it was 10.5 miles to the river.
Right.
And then from the river up to where you turn in here was like 8 more miles.
Right.
And then it was another, well, I'm at 20.5, so
it's almost like a big triangle.
Yeah, if you look at it on a map, it is kind of like a big triangle.
Yeah,
so
that's cool though. That's cool.
But yeah, this is definitely the way to do it, because I had the current. The Oklawaha was a nice ride because I had the current, and then of course the St. John's I had the current as well because all the rains and stuff we've been having.
Yeah.
And virtually no wind till now. It's just starting to kick up a little bit, but
You got it licked at this point.
that's what I'm hoping.
That
So
was probably your biggest obstacle right there. Well,
yeah, there was no doubt it was going to be, but
yeah. Well, very, very cool. Nice talking with you.
nice talking to you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
I wasn't sure if that was an employee or if that was just somebody that was just curious about what I was doing. So I'm glad it was the latter. I didn't feel like being yelled at today anyway. So anyway, well, we've got I don't know, 5 miles left, 4. We'll see. I've got to go back under the 19 bridge, which I think you can see it from here. Yeah, you can see it off in the distance. And then I think it's 3 or 4 from the bridge back to the dam. And then there's going to be one more portage at the reservoir to get back to the truck. But I am definitely, there's no risk of me running out of daylight today. That was a concern I had. But I've made really, really good time, and not having to wait for the lock to cycle saved me a lot of time as well. So anyway, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this epic day and this epic paddle. All right, we are at mile 22. I'm just shy of 7 hours. The free ride is definitely over for sure, though. The wind is kicking up just a little bit. Certainly nothing that I would qualify as being bad, though. It's just enough to ripple the water and give me a little bit of resistance. And I also noticed that there is actually a significant current in here, and it is opposing me, so that's hampering my efforts a little bit too. But I shouldn't be surprised with all the rain that we've had that this does drain out into the St. John's, even though there's a lock there. Anyway, I'm getting ready to pass beneath the Highway 19 bridge. This is the same highway we passed beneath, I don't know, 5 hours ago, maybe 6 hours ago. Much smaller bridge, of course, but this is probably the last landmark until we get to the finish there at the Rodman Reservoir. So really nothing to see, nothing to talk about, so I'm going to go ahead and shut you off and see if I can get these last few miles knocked out before I run out of gas. Well, I finally made it to the end of this never-ending canal. Man, that was dreadful. The wind kicked up, and yeah, it was a tough slog through there. Anyway, this is what it looks like when it reaches the end here in the Rodman Reservoir. We're going to be peeling off hard left here and working our way back to the dam itself where we parked. We're going to have to portage one more time to get to the car, but that's all right. I'm not even sure. I said I was going to peel left here, but I don't know if I can. Yeah, I think I can get through there. Yeah, I have never been in this part of the reservoir. I've come at it from the other side, so this is all kind of new to me. Anyway, opens way up Anyway, the reservoir is very shallow and stump ridden, so you gotta be careful when you're bringing a boat through here at speed, because there's all sorts of submerged logs and stuff under the water. Anyway, over there to our left is the boat ramp for the Rodman campground, and I don't even see the dam yet. I'm guessing it's around that point to our slightly to the left. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the case. Anyway, we're 8 hours, just shy of 8 hours, and we're at just north of 25 miles. So I'm guessing 26. I think that was kind of in the range I was figuring, 26 to 30. I'm glad it was not 30 though. I don't know if I'd want to do 4 more beyond what I've already committed myself to doing here. But anyway, this reservoir can get crazy choppy when the wind kicks up. And although the wind has kicked up just a tiny bit, I mean, I still think it's less than 5 or 6 miles an hour. So this is absolutely nothing compared to what can happen out here. Anyway, if you were to kind of follow this around, you would pick up the Oklawaha where it dumps into this. And then you could take the Oklawaha for a long way. Take you all the way back down towards like Orlando, I believe, if you follow it far enough. Anyway, I think this is going to be it. I don't know that we're going to squeeze 1 more mile out of it, but we might. Yeah, I just wanted to show you what the dam looked like. I'm not gonna paddle over to it, but anyway, that's where it is over there. You can see it, and I am just about done here. We're at 26, or just north of 26 miles, probably be about 26 and a quarter, and we're at a little over 8 hours. Anyway, pretty good day. I have no complaints, actually. I couldn't ask for better weather, better conditions to do this huge loop. I would like to do it again though, and go through the lock just to experience that. That'd be kind of neat. Other than that, I wouldn't change a thing. Anyway, Rodman Dam, and we're gonna call this a day.